Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at the PMBA Global Opportunities online session. My name is Patricia, and I'm the manager for recruitment and admissions at UBC Sauder. Thank you so much for joining at lunchtime. So today we have two of our guest speakers to talk about their experience in this program and also their experience in this global opportunity section that offered in the program. As I mentioned before, this session is going to be recorded in case somebody could not join us today, and we will have a dedicated time for questions and answers at the end. So if you do have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat box while we go, and we also will address all the questions at the end. So before we officially start, I would like to acknowledge that today's session is being hosted on UBC's Vancouver Point Grey campus, which is situated on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And I would also like to acknowledge that you're joining us today from many places, near and far, and I acknowledge that the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. All right, so today our session is going to be pretty casual because I want us to, all have a conversation together. So I will quickly give you some program information with the highlights on GNAM, which is Global Network of Advanced Management. And then we will have our panel discussion with our two of our guest speakers. And afterwards, we'll quickly go through the missions requirements and process, just in case that you are new to the program and new to the session. And then we'll go at the end for the Q&A session. All right. So let me introduce who is in the room today. So as I mentioned, I'm the manager for recruitment and admissions. So I look after the professional MBA program at UBC. So I will be facilitating today's session. I will answer any questions that's related to the program info, admissions requirements, your application process, scholarship information, and also more importantly, we have our guest speaker today. So we have Samson from our alumni who is graduated in 2023, and one of our current student at the PMBA who is in the class of 2025, Anjari. So I'll introduce them so you can just learn a little bit about their background. So Samson here, he is a multidisciplinary professional with extensive experience across law, business, healthcare, media, and technology. So he started his career as a public health and policy researcher in the vaccine programs before transitioning to his legal career. So currently he's the Associate General Counsel at London Drugs, where he oversees all legal matters with particular specializations in technology, e-commerce, healthcare, and marketing. And he's also heavily involved in the community, particularly in DEI, in various management and board involvement through media platforms, startups, nonprofits, legal organizations, and business associations. We also have Anjari. So Anjari is a professional engineer with expertise in process design and optimization. She has experience in strategic product development and improving the sustainability performance and end-to-end value chain of manufacturing sites in the natural resource sector. So Anjari currently leads a team of process engineers at Saltworks Technologies to design lithium refining and advanced wastewater treatment technologies. All right, so those are our guest speaker today. You will hear from them very shortly, how they have gone through their program and their experiences in the GNAM part. So programs offered at UBC. So if you're new to the session or you haven't decided what you want, feel free to check our website. But today we will be focusing on the PMBA, which is a part-time program that is perfect for working professionals. And just quickly on UBC's ranking, because of our constantly ranked as top business school and top university in the whole world, UBC naturally attracts top talents, which is also why our cohorts or the quality of the PMBA cohorts are super high, and you're going to meet a lot of top talents in different industries to expand your network as well. In terms of how the program works, so basically the courses will run on a part-time basis, and it's going to be every other weekend. 2 courses will happen at the same time within the span of 6 weeks. So every 6 weeks, you're finishing 2 courses, and then you're going to have an exam. And in terms of the program journey, so 2 years, you can see that we have 3 professional residencies in the beginning, in the middle, and also in the end of the program. And first year, you're going through 9 different foundation courses. And after you complete the foundation courses, you move on to year 2, and you can see there's a different selection of courses that you can do. So one option is that you can stay at UBC and take advanced courses that are offered at UBC. And another part is that you can do the global opportunities, which is going to be the focus of our today's session. We're going to tell you what are the options that you can do if you want to be a part of the global opportunities, and what are they, how can you be a part of it, and what are the experiences are like, especially from our guest speakers. So if you do wonder, like you want to know in detail how the program works, feel free to book a coffee chat with me. I'll share the link later. But today we'll focus on the global opportunities. All right, so speaking of global opportunities, essentially you have different options if you want to take courses outside of UBC. So basically, as a PMBA student at UBC, on top of the advanced courses that are offered by UBC Sauder, which is the business school, that is inside of the PMBA curriculum, you can also take courses that's part of the full-time MBA curriculum or the international MBA curriculum, or you can take courses in the global opportunities and also some non-RHL courses. So RHL means Robert H. Lee Business School. So that's our graduate school. And basically, if you are interested in some courses outside of RHL, you have the option to do that. It's essentially based on your own interests. So if you are working in finance, you want to take more courses that just focus on finance, feel free to do that. Some people work in sustainability and they want to take some courses focused on sustainability. We have courses for that as well. Okay, so these are some of the alternative options for you to take courses in your second year, because first year is pretty straightforward. You just go through your foundation courses. You have to complete 9 of them before you move on to the second year. But starting second year, you have a lot of different options to choose from. And the GNAM network that I was mentioning, basically it's short for Global Network of Advanced Management. So it is a network that's made of 32 leading business schools all over the world. Basically, it was spearheaded by Yale School of Management. So as a UBC student, you will have the chance to take courses from any member school in this network. Okay, so some of the really famous ones, you can see there's Yale, UC Berkeley, Hong Kong UST, HEC, Oxford in UK. So really, there's a lot of exciting programs and also places that you can travel to. And just to give you some examples of what schools are in this network, so I've just listed some of the examples. You can find a school in basically everywhere, every corner in the world. So 32 schools that are in 30 countries and 5 continents. It really depends on which school grabs your most attention and where do you want to travel to. And UBC is the only Canadian school that's part of this this network. So technically, if you want to be a part of this network and if you want to stay in Canada and do this program, UBC is the only choice. Which means that as a leading business school in Canada, we really get the prestige chance for you to be a part of this network. Okay. And different ways for you to be a part of this network. So essentially, there are 3 ways. I would say 4 ways, but I would say 99% of the students will choose the 3. I will mention all of them so you can have a general idea of how you can be a part of it. So the main 3 ways to be a part of it is, the first one is called SNOCs, so Small Network Online Courses. So basically, it's 4 credit courses offered virtually by any of the member school. You can stay in Vancouver and take courses from any of the schools that you choose. You just have to be in the same time zone. So for example, if you're taking a course in Europe, you might have to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning to join the class. You can also choose Global Network Weeks, which is the second option. So Global Network Weeks, it's for credit classes that's in person, and it's going to be an intensive week of classes. So it's almost like a conference that you go to, and the whole week of courses will be intensive and everything well put together. And you're going to receive a certificate afterwards saying that you've completed this Global Network Week courses. And the third way of being part of this network is called the Summer Study Abroad. So basically, it's also a 4-credit exchange program. The classes are in person, so you are going to travel to that school. It's not going to be the whole summer. It's going to be 2 to 3 weeks in the span of the summer months. So basically from like May to August, anywhere in between, depending on the program or the school that you choose, they're going to give you options of like which days or which schools that you can travel to. So these are the main 3 ways of you being a part of this global network like opportunity. We also have a Yale MAM program. We call it the Master of Advanced Management. That's also another way for you to be, studying at a different schools. So specifically in Yale, I will talk about it for a little bit later. But first of all, I want to explain to you, what are the details for these 3 options that you can be a part of. So technically there for the online course and also for the Global Network Week, there are two time of the year that you can choose for the SNOCs for the online course. Either it's the semester from January to May or it's from September to December. So depending on your work schedule or if you have family, you can choose whichever that fits your schedule the best. And for the Global Network Week, for the in-person travel chance, there's 1 week in March and 1 week in June. So if you join the January 2025 cohort, it's going to be March 2025 or June 2025. You can do both if you want. Each week course will be 1.5 credits, so basically equals to 1 course. And for the summer study abroad, it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks between May to August. Could be somewhere in June, could be in July. And depending on the program or the school that you choose, the credits may vary from 1.5 to 3 credits. But all in all, if you take part in all these opportunities, you could see that the maximum credits that you're going to earn is going to be 3, that's 9 credits out of everything. But really depending on your availability, some students choose to do 1 week of travel, some students choose to do 2, or Samson here, he's done as many as he could. He will share his experience later. And then after we talk about the global opportunities, which is the majority of the students choose to do, I also want to mention that we do have this UBC PMBA and Yale MAM dual degree. This is really for people who are overachievers. You want another degree after your PMBA, and you really, really want to study at Yale. This is also a possibility. So it is basically another MBA or MAM degree on top of your PMBA degree. And the application, also the tuition and everything is going to be separate. So it doesn't mean that if you're accepted into UBC, you're automatically accepted into Yale MAM. It doesn't work like that. You do have to apply to the MAM program separately. You're going to have to pay for that program separately as well. Compared to the global opportunity that we have included in the UBC PMBA program, that one, the tuition is all covered. So you don't have to pay for extra for anything. So this is just the very general or simple details. We do have all the information on our website. If you just Google UBC MBA and Yale MAM dual degree, you will find the link. So if you're interested in, overachieve and do another degree afterwards, feel free to check it out. Whew, I feel like I talked a lot. So most people, I think you're joining the session not to hear from these information that you can find online. You're here to hear experiences from our guest speakers. So I will direct the floor to our guest speakers. So without further ado, I guess I'll invite both of you to first introduce yourself. So your name, what did you study in your undergrad or your previous degrees? Before you joining the program, what were you doing and what are you doing now if your position has changed?
Sure. I guess I'll start. Thanks,
Yeah, for
Patricia.
sure.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samson Chan. As introduced, I'm currently the associate general counsel at London Drugs. So for those who don't know what counsel means, I'm the lawyer basically for the company. And um, my previous degrees, I did quite a few. They're all at UBC. I had a Bachelor of Science, Master in Public Health, JD, and then the MBA. They're all at UBC. So maybe that says something about the school. Um, what I was doing before the PMBA, I was still a lawyer, but I was in private practice. So I was with one of the big firms in downtown, and then made a switch to in-house kind of at the onset of the pandemic, and then I felt like I always wanted to do MBA, so it just felt it was a natural transition in-house doing more business matters that it would be a good switch. So yeah, so that's why I'm still with the same company when I started back then.
Thank you. All right, Jerry.
Thanks, Patricia. Yeah, thank you for the intro earlier too. So I'm Anjuri Jongpai Sansagun. So I'm currently a process engineering team lead, as Patricia mentioned, at Saltworks Technologies. So right now I work in industrial wastewater treatment and lithium refining. And my background is very technical. I am a chemical engineer, so I did my chemical engineering undergraduate at UBC as well. And before I started PMBA, I just made a career change. So I used to work in Alberta and I moved to this industry just a year before I started applying to MBA. And yeah, just wanted to add on some business side to my career. So that's where I'm at.
Wonderful. All right. So I guess I have a question for both of you. So I mean, like at some point at your career, like, I want to do an MBA degree, right? So what was the moment you're like, okay, I've made my decision, and what inspired you basically to pursue this program?
I'll answer first. So I was kind of alluding to that already, but in my previous job, I was working in the energy industry, and I kind of had exposure to like optimization projects where there's more business add-ons to like the technical projects that I was working on, and I just kind of saw the value of like how having this business background can help with doing the technical engineering work. So that kind of sparked the idea for me. And then when I moved back to Vancouver in 2021, was kind of like, oh, this is now the right time to actually seriously pursue this. And I kind of always thought I would go back to UBC for the business program already because I was aware of it from my undergrad.
Yeah, for me,
Definitely.
I contemplated doing the joint degree actually back then when I started law school because UBC had a JD MBA, but I thought I might not get the most out of the program back then. I don't think I have enough managerial experience to make really good use of the program. So I only focus on the JD. And I think what really switched, going in-house where I have to make a lot more business decisions. So I already have a lot of business background. I deal with a lot of business clients. And because I'm also on a bunch of other business related associations and boards, but I think having formal education does help, not just from skills, but even just like speaking the same language with the business units or different vendors to have to talk to. So I think it really helps my current position. And lawyers are usually more advisory, so you're never really part of the business conversation until you do the paperwork, close the deal. But with something like the MBA, then I could be more involved in the actual business negotiations. So beyond just being an advisor.
I see. Thank you for sharing. Did both of you know about the GNAM experience, or like it's part of the program before you joined?
Yeah, that was pretty heavily marketed actually. So I definitely knew about it, but I didn't know, I think, like a lot of the options and how it would actually work in reality because of the time commitment and the availability.
Yeah, same. Like I heard of it. I knew it was an option, but I didn't realize how much you could actually do and like customize your second year of school based on the GNAM opportunity. So that's good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess like now let's move on to, your experience. Like what did you actually do in this GNAM thing? I guess I'll start with on Jerry's because you're currently in the program, right? You're going through this thing as we speak. So do you want to just share, what did you do? Which GNAM experience did you participate? And also like how was your experience? What did you learn from it? Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah. So I participated in the GNAM week. That was in March of this year. And I went to Berlin to ESMT, that's the European School of Management and Technology. And I took a course on persuasion, power, and politics. So it's a really interactive course where we did a lot of like role play, like different kind of role play scenario. And you get to try different tactics of persuasion and take different sides of politics, so it's a really engaging experience, and I would highly recommend, like, all the students who are in the program or will be in the program to take part in the GNAM, because for me it was a really good chance to like see how different business schools teach the PMBA, because everyone else who are also in the program from other universities are also in PMBA. So like having that kind of exchange and learning about how their program is, that cross pollination, I think was really valuable for me.
Wonderful. Thank you. I guess I have a follow-up question for you. Like you said that they were talking about the specific topic about like persuasion and everything. Did you know about the course or like what's going to be in this week before you sign up?
Yes, so the process of application, like UBC will kind of provide you a list of all the schools that are hosting a course at that week during GNAM week, and you get to see what are all the courses that are being offered. It's all the universities have the courses at the same time, so the topic was really of interest for me because it's quite different from like the core courses that UBC had offered, and the location as well was really attractive for me.
I see. Great. And Samson, I know that you've done quite a few. Feel free to talk about all of them. I am sure the audience will be curious to hear all of them.
Yeah, so I did two GNAM weeks and three snogs. I have colleagues who did even more than that, and so but I did quite a few. And for the snogs, I did so the snogs are the courses, as Patricia has introduced. So you don't have to physically go to the university. So I found that pretty flexible. There are more online courses, and there's like negotiation, there's ethics, and there's also like behavioral management, those type of topics. So I always found those like kind of business psychology and gray areas, how do you deal with ethical dilemmas, um, to be pretty interesting topics. And those are not really just undergrad type of courses. Like it's a lot of case studies, a lot of role playing. So it is very interactive, even though it's online. And the two GNAM weeks that I did, one was with Yale. I couldn't go in person for that one because that was still during pandemic. But that one, it's sort of like a series of TED Talks of how do you manage, I think, different type of companies and different type of personnel. So that one was very much in behavioral management, but it's different ways to do it. So they're not trying to teach us one way. Um, and then the other one that I did go in person was with Hitachibashi. That one was in Japan. That one was about their service industry and how they're using technology to enhance what they already have. I mean, they're like world renowned for their services. But you get to understand, I think, the cultural background, the tradition, how they manage to preserve that even with technology. So I think what I got the most um, out of all these snogs and GNMs, especially with Hitachibashi, because I'm still very closely connected with the faculty. I'm working on a business paper with them actually. There's no one right way, I think, to manage and to lead. There's a lot of things you can learn from different cultures. And I really like that cross-cultural type of perspective. So then you have just more tools in your toolbox when you need it.
Well, it's great to hear that you're, still connected with the network that you built over there. So out of so technically you did 5 different courses in this whole all the options that you could choose, right?
Yep.
Did you did you have a plan of like which ones you want to choose before, or you kind of like, oh, these are the things that I could choose. I'm gonna, take up the SNOC courses and choose all of like planned, or more of a like in the moment kind of decision?
No, it was very intentional. Because I think one, for the snogs, it really depends on the time too. Like there are ones where it's just impossible to do. It's either during work hours or during like 3 a.m. at night because of the time zone difference. So those ones I just can't do. But for the topics, because I didn't take them in addition to a lot of the UBC courses. So they're like the optional courses in second year, especially. Some I just wasn't very interested. So I much rather do something else with the SNOCs and the GNAM. So I was very intentional, like what kind of topics, I want to choose. But of course, like the schedule does limit some choices. Like there were some other SNOCs and GNAM I would love to do if time permits.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you don't want to get up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. constantly for a semester. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my next question, I'll start with Anjari again. In terms of like, work and study and travel, like the balance between all of them, because we all know that for this program, who are going for this program is going to be, working professionals who might have a lot of like family commitments and just like a lot of things going on. So how did you manage the balance? Like, what did you learn from this experience?
Yeah, well, I think, UBC started put a lot of work into like planning out the schedule for the full program. And I think the fact that like during GNAM week, because the classes typically is every other weekend, but during GNAM week, you have the 2 extra weekends in between or on each end of the GNAM week. So that was really great for me. And I was actually able to like take vacation on top of the GNAM week since I was already in Europe to kind of travel around a little bit afterwards. So that was like actually more of a break for me after a year and a half of school. So it was actually a really nice experience. But in terms of work-life balance in general throughout this program so far, I think the first set of courses in the first year is kind of the learning process of like, oh, when do I work best, and then like what kind of schedule I can work with. So I generally like working some on homework and assignments on the weekend, and like you have to do a little bit in the evening as well during the work week. So I think it's about finding the best time that works for you and like when you work best, and kind of so I'm sticking to that schedule for the rest of my program. That's why I only did the one GNAM, and I'm taking the schedule courses for the rest of the program because that has worked well for me.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense actually. People like they have different learning styles, and some people, it's more effective for them to study at night. Some people it's in the morning. So the first year is basically for you to learn your style in terms of like managing your time, like, priorities and everything. So like once you get into that rhythm, it's really easy afterwards.
Yes, yeah, and I have a lot of colleagues as well, people in my class who prefer to like have just their weekends free, so they really took advantage of the SNOP courses and do all the online courses during the week.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about you, Samson?
Uh, I'm more of a realist, more like I knew first year I'm not gonna have much of a balance. So I just have to suck it up. Like you're gonna have to make sacrifices to make it happen. Second year is a lot better. I think with definitely with the SNOGs, the GNAMs, and just the fact because there's a lot more optional courses even within BBC. You can play around the schedule. So you don't have to do like back-to-back Saturday, Sunday anymore. Like that was mostly the case in first year. Like your whole weekend is gone. So I think it's more just being mentally prepared. Like your first year is not gonna be like fun. In general, first year is gonna be really busy. So I think you have to talk to, like, be transparent to your family, your employer. Like this is what's gonna happen in first year. So that no one's caught by surprise. So yeah, so I think it's more just bracing for it and understanding it's a process. So once you get through the core courses in first year, then second year there's more flexibility.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When I talk to our offer holders, usually I tell them, this is not you going through the program, it's your whole supporting network supporting you through the whole process, right? Have conversations with your manager, employer, and people around you, just to have the expectation that you will, dedicate some of your time into this program. So everybody will be on the same page and they give you, encouragement and everything. It's going to be very important throughout the whole process. And do you guys like after the GNAM experience, in terms of like, skill development or basically just like changing your perspective or like things you learned, can you share something, like one thing or one skill that you think you've developed after this GNAM experience?
Yeah. I think it's just the way I would approach disputes, like contentious issues, which unfortunately is a big part of my job. Dealing with contracts and negotiation. Um, I think through GNAM, I think like what I said, it's you learn from different cultures. So the way, like say Japanese people deal with negotiation, the way they look at contract, often it's more from a more personal perspective, try to understand what's behind the intent. Whereas the more Western way is that's what the contract says. That's the way it is. It's more black and white. So I think having that different perspective is actually quite useful because you go beyond, I think, what's on the paper, but you try to negotiate based on understanding why this person react this way, why the founder says no to these terms, and you're trying to have a conversation instead of just playing different sides. So that to me was pretty interesting. And I think, yeah, having that GNM SNOG experience definitely helped.
What
Yeah.
about you?
Yep. And for me, so the course was Persuasion, Power, and Politics, and it was taught by a psychologist. The professor, his background is in psychology, so it's actually kind of like very reflective experience. Kind of explore like your relationship with power, because sometimes it has some negative connotation, but with all of the like role play opportunities that we got to do, you kind of get to try different techniques out, and it's very safe space for you to like do the morning negotiation using like this one style and then try a different style in the afternoon and see how that works for you. So it's mostly like reflective for me and just exploring what power looks like in my career and what it means to me personally.
And I know that you've just done like one GNAM so far, but let's say if time permits and everything else permits, is there anything else or like which other program are you interested in that you want to participate?
Yeah, so I did apply for SNOC in the fall. So there's 2 sessions of SNOCs as well, in the spring and in the fall. So later this year, I would like to explore some of the online courses. And yeah, if time permit, definitely I was exploring the other GNAM opportunity too, but I'm out of vacation this year, so I wasn't able to take part in that. But there were different courses offered for the summer one, and that would have been great. Yeah.
Hmm. What about you, Samson? I know that you've done a lot already. Would you like to add more if you had the chance?
Um, Maybe the summer abroad. If I had time, I would have done one of them. I just heard really good experience from my friends who did it. Most of them went to Europe, I think. And they got a lot out of the different programs. So yeah, if I have the time, I would have probably tried the summer abroad.
I see. And throughout your program, like, did you have any chance to connect to students from, like, for example, our full-time MBA or IMBA? Like basically like, the classes, did you take classes from the other programs?
Not me. I didn't.
Just the PMBA class.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
same
about
as me.
Andre?
Yeah, I haven't taken any courses with the full-time or IMBA either. But I think in the second year, I find a lot of especially now it's summer, a lot of full-time students are also in the part-time MBA classes. So I get to interact with them a bit.
That's great. Okay, before I open the floor to our audience to ask questions, I have one last question for you guys. So, for our prospect students who are interested in coming to UBC and do the program, tips, advice for people who have gone through it or going through it, what can they do?
I think one main thing is this isn't a program that's going to hold your hand. I think sometimes there's the misconception that with the three letters behind your name, you're automatically going to get certain things. That's not really how it works. I think it's more of just resources, whether it be the stuff you learn or the people you meet. So the networking, I think one of the question in the chat asked about networking opportunities. So like you have to be proactive. Like you're not gonna sit there and people would approach you. Like that's not how it's gonna work. So I think if you are interested in the program, you have to be quite open-minded that you will have to do the work to get what you want out of it. So, with that said, you have to be intentional. What exactly do you want out of this program?
Yeah. Yeah, just adding on to what Samson said, like being intentional is very important in this program. I think, it's not like if maybe other people have done like more academic program or just from the undergrad was their last academic experience, and like just being honest with yourself. This is not a program that you care about like getting A plus and all that. It's an experiential learning. So making the most out of, connecting with your cohort and taking opportunities like GNAMs and SNOC to learn something that's maybe not your typical or not the core classes you thought you were going to learn. Like, because for example, what I learned most from is like maybe a class that I didn't expect to learn most from, like entrepreneurship. I wasn't even interested in entrepreneurship to begin with, but I ended up learning so much from it because it was so kind of holistic view of a business. So yeah, there's opportunities to take away what you want from this program. Just have to be intentional about it and being honest with yourself of like what is a good enough kind of, don't try to be perfectionist on all the assignments, and knowing what you want to take away from each class is important.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. So now I'm going to open the floor for our audience for any questions that you want to ask about the program, or you want to ask our guest speakers. Feel free to just throw it in the chat, and we'll go through them one by one. You can see there's someone asking about how far in advance are they able to see what's being offered in this GNAM experience. I can give, I'll direct a question to both of you actually, like how did it go for both of you?
For me, I think when we were doing the residency 2, which was in December of last year, I think that was kind of the time when we already knew where we were going, I think. So I think November of last year. Yeah. So, and then you're traveling in March, so that gives you 5 months.
Yeah, I have classmates who started doing snogs in second term of first year. I have no idea how, because there's a lot of core courses in first year that you can't opt out. So I think for those people, they were actually almost doing like a full-time like study schedule. They might have taken time off or something. I have no idea, but it's possible to apply snogs really early, but otherwise I think it's right before residency too. So yeah, Andre is right. It's around November time. I think you start applying, like you get the information probably October, and then you get to apply. The application process is not very difficult. In fact, I think that's something, Patricia, you might probably can share some insights, because I don't really know how they select. Some people say it's a draw. Some people say it's by what you wrote. some people say it's like by academic, like what's your grade at that point? I have no idea how to select.
Yeah. I can share some of my knowledge on this. So basically, the program will be dedicated, or the goal is to share the information by November before you start your second year. So like I would say you have a couple months to, get ready, to plan your vacation and everything. So in terms of like timeline, I would say like November is probably a safe bet for people. Like you mentioned, some of the people who might have done it in the first year, there's a possibility that they graduate later. So they could be from the previous cohort, because technically in the first year, the classes are already very intensive. Like, there's literally no time unless you are taking a chunk of your time off from work. And in terms of the selection process, it's not a competition, or it's not like you have to fill out the whole thing, like trying to be outstanding in like the pool of talents. Everybody gets, I believe for the GNAM weeks, everybody gets 4 choices. For SNOCs, everybody gets 3 choices, if I remember correctly. So you do have, you can put up a list of the schools that you want to go to. And our advice usually for people is that, give a good list. For example, if you really, really want to go to Yale, we've seen students who put first choice Yale, second choice Yale, third choice Yale. And it's really competitive to go to Yale because there's only a limited seats available, right? So as for your second choice, put somewhere that you also want to go, just in case that you don't get selected. If you put all 3 choices at Yale, you're never going to be selected, right? So for some of the really popular ones, I would say luck plays a lot of factor in this. Because we want everybody to go to the school that they want to, but also like depending on the availability, but also like for the school to decide who to send to, you also have to be just a good student, right? We want to make sure that UBC as a school, like people think, students from UBC are good people. So if you are a good ambassador of the program, of the school, of course, like, the school will be more willing to send you there. How are the travel plans managed for abroad opportunities? Like, are you responsible for booking or paying separately for your own flights? How are the itinerary like organized?
I think for GNAM week, I don't know if it's different for different school, but for the one I went to for Hitotsubashi, you don't get to pick the hotels. Like that's like you pay for it, but then they pick the hotels because that was actually part of the learning experience because it's about service industry. So they want you to stay at 2 different hotels, and the 2 different hotels have 2 different ways to service their guests. And we actually get to talk to the management afterwards. So we're almost like doing like a trial period, that type of thing. So it was kind of interesting, but the accommodation was set up already. So we have to pay for our own flight. But yeah, otherwise, at least for the Hitotsubashi one, is pretty much well managed already by the school.
That's really cool. No, for me, I had to plan the accommodation and travel myself.
So it really depends on, which program you choose, which school you choose. Like each school has a little different situation. But the program manager, they will let you know before you sign up, like how each program works, what do you need on your end, what is, being planned and what is being offered to you. And also it like every year is a little different. Some of the programs, sometimes, for example, the summer program, some courses might not be available or it's full. So really every year is a little different. Next question for the ratio of Canadian and international students in the PMBA cohort, I can answer this. So the PMBA program is a part-time program, which means that international students will not be able to apply for a study permit. So only Canadian citizens and PR candidates will be able to join the PMBA. So for international students, you will have to join the full-time MBA program to be eligible to get a study permit. Next question is specifically for Anjari. Do you find getting an MBA significantly accelerated your engineering career?
I think it kind of depends on like what your career interests are. Like for me, I still enjoy the technical work that I do, but I think it's really allowing me to kind of like Patricia mentioned earlier in my bio, strategic product development. So it's kind of doing the technical work, but informed by like the business strategy of the company. And now I can understand like the language when talking to the CEO and calculating the profit margin and all that, and the things like that. So it's been interesting in that way. In terms of personal development too, I think my ability to kind of lead the team has improved. Just in terms of confidence and being in the same cohort with other people who are also like-minded people, I think it improves your confidence in your career.
Thank you. Oh, I see a hand up, Hari. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you both for the great session today. I just wanted to hop on at the same question there for Anjali. Could you also talk about, you mentioned you were in the energy sector in Alberta. What was the kind of the driving force for you to move provinces? Were you looking at some sort of a provincial advantage, or was it more focused on UBC, anything that attracted you? And then kind of a more general question, maybe Samson as well. Is there anything that stood out for UBC? Was it kind of the number one ranking, or was it more of the global network opportunities, compared with other MBA programs you might have been looking at the time? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I'll just answer my question quickly first. The move to Vancouver, it's both like for professional development and personal. I was working at a really large kind of multinational oil and gas company before, and I just personally want to pivot to a more sustainable sector. And I found an opportunity in Vancouver where I personally want to be located long term as well. So that's my move.
Yeah, for me, I think just definitely because I work here, so I mean, that UBC being here definitely plays a role. But I think it's also the exposure to Asia Pacific. Because a lot of my family is still in Asia. My family business is still in Asia. So I have personal connections to Asia Pacific where who knows down the road what happens, but I think the UBC MBA would prepare me well. Just that network out that way. I can't say the same if you're interested in maybe the States, depending on, which coast, maybe there's more advantage for some other school that have closer connection with, US. But, if you're also interested in Asia Pacific, I think UBC is a really good choice.
All right, I'm going to go with the question again. I saw a question, someone is interested in going to Yale. A lot of people are interested in going to Yale. It's extremely popular. There's no competition per se. As I mentioned, like you just have to be, a good student. And when you are asked to submit your choices, make sure that your list is solid. Just in case you can't get into Yale, your second choice is still somewhere that you want to go. So at least you will be a part of this experience. But it really depends on how many seats we get per year and how many people sign up. The program will try our best to match people with the choices they want. But in terms of how or is it guaranteed? There's no guarantee. There's a bit of a luck that's part of the factor as well. And in terms of the flight, hotel, so you do have to pay for your own flight and food and accommodation, but otherwise all the tuition is already covered. So there's no extra tuition that you have to pay to the school that you attend to. I remember there's something, please correct me if I'm wrong, Samson and Jerry. There might be some social activities that's arranged by the school. So those ones, if you do want to be a part of it, you might have to pay extra. But for the course part, everything's covered.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, for my GNAM experience, it's so fully packed already. The Hitachibashi one, because it's about service industry, we basically get to go to all sorts of service business industry headquarters, restaurants, airlines, hotels, shrines. So a lot of field trips actually. So every day was packed to the max. So we didn't even have to like bother with like doing like side stuff. Because it's only like at night that we could really go out. So yeah, so that program would just plan everything for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard from other students too. Like it's really intensive, but also you get so much out of that and intensiveness, the schedule. But afterwards you'd be like, oh, that week it's just crazy because I've done like so much in that one week. There's one interesting question. What would you say is your favorite thing about the program? What is your least favorite thing about the program?
Oh, I have a lot to say, I think. Least favorite is the first year, to be very honest, because I think a lot of courses very undergraduate like. I think it's good if you have zero knowledge of some of the stuff, but like say for me, I wish I didn't have to take statistics because I have a statistics background in research. So that frankly was a waste of my time doing that course. And then I think I can say the same for a lot of my colleagues who have accounting background, CPAs, senior accountants, some are like partners at accounting firms. Why they have to do accounting courses, I have no idea, but they had to do it. So I think everyone had that kind of feeling in first year, like some of the courses we shouldn't have to do it. Um, but otherwise, my favorite course is actually operations. Chris Ryan, best professor ever.
Agreed.
Yeah, because like, some of these courses, they just teach you to think from a completely different perspective. Like Chris Ryan makes operations sounds humane and human. It's not just input output. So I thought that was one of the most insightful classes ever. I actually took two from him. If he was teaching more, I would have taken more from Chris Ryan. So yeah, like some profs are just outstanding, I would say.
Yeah, I kind of echo that too in terms of like the least favorite. I think the first set of courses when you're finding your bearing and then they're hitting you with accounting. And so for me, I didn't have the accounting background, so it was like a lot to learn from. And I did appreciate having the CPAs in my class. Um, but in terms of most favorite, I'd have to say like the cohort, just being together for a year now and like going to GNAM was a really good bonding experience with the cohort that went with me from UBC as well. So just building your circle from this program has been amazing.
Oh yeah, I'll just add something about the cohort. So I think there's some people have a misconception you have to like try to connect with every single person in a class. That's great if you can, but I think the class is talented and diverse enough where you can definitely find people you just echo more with and probably more strategic for what you're trying to get out of the program as well. So uh quality over quantity, I think. Then you feel less burden. You feel like you have to network with every single person. You don't have to.
Thank you for sharing. I think first year, some of the courses are really similar to like a work scenario where you have to work on a project with different level of people who have, different level of knowledge or experience. And it's like a simulation of you working, like trying to work with people in different background and getting their perspectives, right? So like getting into that rhythm and also like find out what's the best for you is also like very, very important. Okay, I'll take the last question just because we're almost time. So this time for Anjari. Did you take any prep courses before the program started? Or like how long did you do it? No? Okay.
No, yeah, I didn't take any prep courses. I took some economic classes in my undergrad, but that's it. Yeah, no. No prep courses required. I think they do teach you from the basics, but yeah, you're good.
Awesome. And also, sorry, one last question. So, for Anjari, so as an engineer, do you have any challenges specifically for you in terms of the majority of the people in the cohort are from a non-technical background? Like how's the learning benefits for you?
Actually, for my cohort, like almost half the people are also engineers, so it hasn't been a challenge yet. I'm not sure if it's the same for you in your year, Samson, but not most, but a lot of my classmates also have engineering background. But a lot of them maybe are not doing engineering work directly anymore. But like I have people in my class with PhDs and doctors, and So very diverse group, but a lot of people with non-business background.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, perfect. We're almost time, so I'm just gonna quickly go through, the random facts. If you haven't applied, please do so quickly because our second deadline is coming up. You can find all the admissions requirements online. A lot of people ask me if they could apply for a GMAT waiver. Yes, you can. We do have listed requirements and everything on our website, but I have to say that you can apply for a waiver, but having an actual GMAT or GRE score is going to increase your competitiveness, especially if you have a high score. So if you think your application is like, just passing the minimum requirement or not as strong, then, definitely do the test and just have a high score that is going to increase your competitiveness. And in terms of deadline, we do have a final deadline of October 1st, but usually at that time, there's a lot of limitations. We have less seats left. There's more competitive to join. So try to meet the second deadline, which is July 16th, because some of the scholarships are actually ending after July 16th, which means that you have to submit all the required documents and everything before July 16th to be considered for the scholarships. Okay. So that's just one thing to notice. And we do have upcoming sessions just like this. So check our event page. It's under the PMBA solder page. I'm also going to be at Robson Square on Tuesdays by appointment. I offer one-on-one advising, one-on-one coffee chat. So if you do have questions about, your application, how to increase your competitiveness, everything else, feel free to make an appointment with me. You can also do virtual coffee chat. You can also just find all the links on our website. All right. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you so much for the guest speakers, for your time to share experiences. And hopefully we'll receive your applications if you haven't applied, and hopefully to see you in person at UBC. All right. Thank you again. And hopefully you are enjoying the summer days, and take care for now.